think we're live and now we're public.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We have people watching now. Okay.
Okay. People.
All right. So anyone tuning in, Facebook Live is Facebook Live. But yes, we have about a 3-second delay for what it's worth, just so anyone listening knows. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Yes. Yes, you are live. That is
Good.
Richard F. Padden. That is my co-host on Armchair Directors.
Oh, hello.
Big fan of Kevin Tumlinson. Big fan.
Aw. Maybe not after this show.
Yeah, maybe not after this show.
Hey, see me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. All right.
Hey, you're on Facebook. Oh, you are actually on Facebook. Good
yeah, I managed to log in. So,
Allison, Miss Valentine,
hi,
how
Allison.
you doing, my friend? Yes, how you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, Dakota, a man from my past. What's going on, Dakota? How you doing, Mr. Lewis? Dakota and I worked together for a couple of years back in the day at Total Wine, actually. So,
okay.
Yeah, that was an eventful employment.
Speaking of booze, I really wish I'd poured something before this whole thing started.
You can get up if you'd like.
I might. It is off to my left back there behind me. You can see it on the.
You're more than welcome to as people start walking in.
You may do that.
You're more than welcome to. I have a tequila, pineapple juice, and Waterloo pineapple seltzer.
I have coffee from Bean Here, a roaster in Missouri City, Texas. Sugarland area, Texas.
Oh, okay. Waterloo is based out of Austin, Texas.
All right.
The seltzers. So they're just nice, refreshing.
I was showing off.
While you're showing off. And
that.
Oh. I'm watching you cough twice because you're live and then you're over here.
Yeah. Choking to death in simulcast.
Choking to death in simulcast. So this is definitely just going to be a loose event with Kevin and I on camera. You guys are more than welcome to ask away with any of your questions. We are just going to be hanging out and just kind of going with the flow as things go on. I will tell you, depending on your privacy settings, that your questions do not always come up. So if you have specific privacy settings in your Facebook account, your questions may not pop up. So we did get hey Matt or Nick, or hey Matt, Nick, I mean Kevin. Hey James, how you doing?
Hey there.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
All the time. Kevin is the elder statesman, but he's more handsome. So
yeah, exactly.
He's more. Let's see. How can I say
aged
this?
like a fine wine.
He is not venerable. Not venerable.
Not venerable.
Rich and I just brought that up. There it is. Rich just said it. Don't you mean venerable? I introduced Rich on the last podcast. I introduced Rich as the venerable Richard F. Padden. He started dying laughing. So that's a callback to the Ghostbusters episodes with Kevin when he was on our other podcast on Armchair Directors.
Yeah. That was fun. It was late, but fun.
Yeah, it was late. It was fun though. But so Kevin, as people are coming in and people are discovering that we are live, what can you tell us about yourself as far as maybe current work, what's going on, what's maybe coming down the pike as far as books? I know the last time we've talked, you were talking about your next Dan Kotler book, but as far as progress and how everything's going, how is it?
I mean, everything's going fine. I have put the Kotler book that I was working on, I put on hold for another special project that I can't actually talk that much about, but
Rich blames you, by the way. So
yeah, I see. Yeah, I understand, Rich.
Yeah.
I'll let you have it. Yeah. So the current, there's a couple of things that are on my plate right now. One of them is a project that I actually started on my 50th birthday.
Okay.
which was October 12th last year. So toward the end of the year, but I started this thing where I had a journal. It's and I'm going to butcher the German, but it's a look term notebook, and they're a lot like Moleskine, which has
Okay.
always been my preference. I keep journals. I keep a ton of journals, but I have this
It's a
little
rock.
leather
It's a German rock band,
sleeve.
actually. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Look term
No,
could
Moleskine.
be. Moleskine is a German rock band.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So the notebook that I got on the recommendation of Neil Gaiman, and
Okay.
he really liked the paper. He felt like it worked well with because he uses fountain pens, and he felt like it didn't have as much bleed. And we had a whole conversation over Twitter about notebooks, and he recommended it. So I bought one, and I was going to use it as my daily journal like I do the Moleskine, but it won't fit in the little sleeve my wife gave me for Christmas last year. So what I decided was, well, I'll save it for something special. And I'm going to make that something special start on my 50th birthday. So I had a couple of months before that happened, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But what I ended up doing was writing a kind of daily, like my philosophy, my principles, almost like a manifesto, but that word's taken on like negative connotations now. So, but it's little bits of wisdom that I've discovered over the years, like things that I learned the hard way and things that I learned from others. None of it was planned. Every day I started just completely from scratch, not knowing what I was going to write, and would end up writing a page each day of something. And it's really kind of profound how great it turned out. It was 123 pages. I just finished it a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago. Not even a week ago, like last Saturday. And now I'm typing up all those entries, 3 or 4 a day until I've got it. And I'm going to release it as a kind of philosophy book. So now while I'm doing that, I'm working on a thriller, but the thriller is something I ran into. I had a fortuitous introduction that has led to a project, and I haven't yet finalized everything. I don't know all the details. I can't really talk about everything yet.
Sure.
But that one's going to be exciting. But I will finish the Kotler book, but I did put it on the back burner for the.
So James has at 50, you should have at least have something you've learned.
Yeah.
You'd hope so. Anyway, you'd hope so.
Yeah. It's 123 pages. So what I did was write the thing I've learned over and over again 123 times.
I was about to say, is it like the Bart Simpson thing at the beginning of Simpsons, where he's just writing the same thing over and over? That's
exactly.
Funny. Dakota, thank you very much. He's talking about armchair directors. Thank you very much. And he's fallen into into a Matt James rabbit hole of late. So thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Matt James rabbit hole.
Yeah. We actually used to talk a lot about my books and just the creative process in movies and everything. Dakota was always very interested in what I did while I was writing. So, thank you for continuing to be interested in what I do, because that's kind of why I'm here, is because there's interest. So thank you. I really do appreciate that. Another great author, E.C. Ambrose. So we have the Bone Guard series.
No, we are actually frozen in carbonite. Sorry about that. Sorry.
No. It's not my end, because my end is 940 fiber. So we're zooming over here. So no, it happens because I'm blaming it on. Well, I'm going to blame it on Facebook, but I'm also blaming it because we're using third-party software to get into Facebook. So it's probably a bunch of different things that are not helping. Yeah. So it is what it is, but it at least. This will also be, if you're having issues, this will be audio. This will be in the Real Life Fiction podcast feed, just like I did with the Real Life Live show I did with Andrew Clausen a few weeks ago. So if you are having issues and video or audio, something's wonky, this will get uploaded as a regular podcast. So if for whatever reason you can't listen or watch now, there will be another opportunity. Just letting you know. Oh, come on, Matt. No need to brag. Come on.
There's always need to brag.
There's always need to brag. Come on. So, No, actually, this would be actually a good time to bring up. Rich and I just recorded the Fifth Element episode for Armature Directors, and
Multi-pass.
multipass. Actually, where's my multipass? Oh, I hung it back up. I have a Lee Ludalis multipass from years ago, but no, but Rich has actually been dying to get into this conversation. He was he couldn't get to the last show. But him and I are actually going to be starting a new series together, so co-author series. So it's one of my 2 new series that I am debuting this year. So I'm currently writing the Relics of God, book 1, which is The Blood King, which is a solo series that I'm starting. And then Rich and I are starting up a series called the Alex Wake Thrillers. And basically the way to look at it is, what if Ryan Reynolds was John Wick?
Okay. What if
we are going to have not I would say 80-85% John Wick, because there are parts that are just really brutal in John Wick that it's not going to get that over the top, but it's that type of character, but with the wit and the just ridiculous sense of humor that Ryan can come up with, kind of on the fly and just thinking like that. So that was kind of an idea I came up with that I brought Rich in to help with, and we'll have the first book in that series later this year for everyone. So that's
nice.
gonna be a fun one. That's gonna be a fun one. More information to come, but that's gonna be a fun one too. So Dakota, I'm really on the podcast kick for Rich. Oh, not you, Match. See, Padden. Oh, so he's gonna love Alex Wake. Then he's gonna love it because it's both of us. So he's gonna love it. Well, it's like a lot of Rich, but he's gonna love it.
Yeah.
What does Allison say? I do hope your book, The Venetian Pursuit, is a great success. So yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That came out yesterday. So that is a new release. That is the Jack Riley Adventures Book 5. That came out yesterday, U.S. time. So very, very happy with it. As long as it does as well as the last few have done, we're cooking with gas. So
yeah. Very nice.
Thank you. But just keep flying in. Hey, James. I have enjoyed the Jack Riley books, Matt. I do need to try some of your others. I do like Kevin's Kotler novels as well. I'm an avid reader, in case you all didn't know.
Thanks for throwing me that bone, James. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Occasionally, Kevin needs to be reminded that people
read my books too.
Yeah, people read Kevin's books too.
You're the one, James. Thank you.
Yeah, you're the one. You're my subscriber.
You've bought me so many cups of coffee.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to throw in the Afterlife reference there.
Yeah.
You're my subscriber.
You're my subscriber.
Oh, man. Yeah, Rich, there had to be one person out there.
Yeah. Everybody gets one.
That's an interesting concept, LOL. Ryan is John Wick. It's more of his way of looking at life, like, as like decrepit as what he might be doing. His demented sense of humor, like Deadpool style, but not that. But
this
that's kind of
the
yeah.
I have not watched
John
Wick because it's not. Okay, the reason I won't watch John Wick is because I've heard that an animal gets hurt, and I can't stomach that.
His dog, yeah,
his dog.
That's the whole premise of John Wick, is that his dog gets hurt, so he goes on a rampage, more or less. So yeah, no, I have an issue with that too. It's one of those weird. It's not weird actually. It's very common, but it's some of the stuff that you and I can come up with as creative writers. Yeah. And some of the things that others can come up with. The one thing that bothers everybody is animals getting hurt.
Yeah.
You could brutalize kids and animals. Kids and animals are things that I cannot stomach.
Yeah. I can't watch animal movies for that reason, because every animal movie, inevitably the animal gets hurt, and it just breaks my heart. So I can't even watch Godzilla because of that.
Oh my God.
I used to be able to watch Godzilla, but like the last couple of Godzilla movies, like it just makes me sad. I can't do it.
I was about to ask if like Homeward Bound bummed you out when Shadow got hurt at the end and he was limping.
Yeah, no, I can't. I didn't watch Homeward Bound. Yeah, I don't.
Oh
I don't watch
man.
animal movies.
I mean, that was 30
So
years ago. Come
I
on. That's
know.
that's
I
that's
know.
that's back when you were strong like bull and you could take it.
That's about when it started. About 30 years ago, I got to a point where I'm like, I cannot watch any more movies in which dogs especially get hurt. I can't do it.
I mean, come on,
Uh,
Rich. Really? Really?
I'm
It
looking
was
bored. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to look
it
bored.
was 3 minutes ago. It was
Okay.
like
I'm not bored. It's just, evenings.
Oh, well, thank you,
Seriously.
Dakota. I just revisited the whole Jack Riley series so I could read The Venetian Pursuit within hours of it coming out. I enjoyed it immensely.
Oh, very
Wow.
nice.
Thanks, bud. I really, I
You want
really,
readers
really
like that.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do. And you know what's cool? I don't know about you, Kevin, but just like he is an actual, like, I mean, everyone in this chat are human beings, but Dakota's a human being for my personal life.
Yeah.
And seeing that is cool because, it's, I don't have a lot of like local people that I know that read my stuff that
Yeah.
aren't just like family and friends. So like, but Dakota being like a coworker of mine, and then we talked about it, but he's still continuing to read stuff just as a fan. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. So I really do appreciate that. But oh, that was Kevin being bored.
Yeah. It's
Well,
boring.
I'm not as bad as Ernie. I can't completely hate you.
Ernie doesn't hate. Actually, Ernie and I have vowed to be rivals. That's what we have a very Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman relationship. So
Oh, yeah. No, that was
do we hate each other? We might. We might hate each other.
I
We
don't
might.
know. I mean, we might.
Do we? We might.
We might. Oh, Allison has a question. Kevin, have you any plans on directing any more theater?
I haven't directed in a very long time. I'm not opposed to it. There's nothing though that I'm necessarily. There's no projects that I'm interested in. If something came along, I would probably consider doing it. But that's a whole different thing, and it's a very time intensive and not always rewarding.
Yeah. No, I know a few people that do stage, and it's more personal, like rewarding than anything else. But it's like immensely. It's like they work, they have family, and then they do theater, and that is it because it's just
Right.
so time
It will
consuming.
take over your life. There are so many
It has to be because you
angles and
need to have the
aspects of
time and
it.
the passion. Yeah,
Right.
it
Right.
has to be. You
Even
can't do
more so
it
than
half.
film. Like
Yeah.
I directed. So I worked in film and TV. I mostly did documentary stuff, but I did
Yeah.
some fiction stuff as well. And uh, it was that was time intensive. But the thing about that is you work on a schedule, you get the shot, and once you've got it, you go. With
Sure.
theater, you might do, depending on the run of the show. I mean, you might do 5 to 6 shows a week for several weeks. It just takes over your life until the show ends. And
Yeah.
you can have people step in, like I had uh, associate director and things like that on some of my stuff. And but no, I don't think I would. I'm not excited about it anymore, as I was, earlier in my life. I don't know that I would go out and pursue a show anymore, but I don't know if the right project came along. If I got
Yeah.
to direct the Avengers musical,
Ghostbusters Live.
Ghostbusters Live, or something like that, you could probably convince me to.
Ghostbusters Live would be in interesting
I would
interesting
direct.
development.
I would direct Moonlighting the musical.
Oh
That's what
man,
I would do.
that is definitely
Anybody remember?
left field.
Yeah.
That is a left field. I was
Actually,
not expecting.
I'd like to be in that. I'd like to be David Addison in Moonlighting the musical. I could pull it off.
Oh, here you go. Ambrose has something for you. There's a website called Does the Dog Die? So you know going in.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay. That's good. Okay.
That's good
I will.
information. That's good information.
That is
Everybody
very
listening,
good information.
everybody watching and listening needs to know that. So,
All right.
James, okay, Kevin. Now I can't like you anymore. I'm back on
Ah.
Ernie's side since you haven't seen John Wick.
I'll win you back over.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? You know what's weird is ever since I've had kids, over the top violence actually revolts me.
Yeah.
Like it repels me. Like
I could see that.
When I was younger, um, I loved like just the brutal action movies. Like I loved like The Way of the Gun from years ago. Like I loved an old school Desperado, and I mean I still like Desperado because that's also just cinematically beautiful and just actors like that's a whole different thing. But like some of like the violence in some of this stuff, it really doesn't do it for me anymore. And it like I said, it actually puts me off. Like I love
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, and I love the acceleration his career has seen at his age, but the character and like the way that they do like that's why Deadpool is just nauseating for me. I've seen it and I'm like, okay. I never saw the second one.
Yeah.
Third one I might look at just because I'm interested to see Hugh Jackman as like Wolverine, but they're teasing like comic book Wolverine. So as far as like the outfit and stuff, so but it doesn't really do
Really?
anything for me. Yeah, they're talking like the
Yeah.
original like brown and yellow outfit.
How interesting. That would be very cool. I
Yeah,
am I am looking forward to that to the third Deadpool because of Hugh Jackman. I actually did enjoy the other two, and they're kind of they can be over the top violent, but there's some I like Ryan Reynolds.
yeah.
I don't know why. You
Free
know,
Guy. I tell people Free Guy is one of my favorite comedies
Free
of
Guy
like the
is
last
probably one of my favorite movies in the past
10 or
decade.
15
Like
years. Honestly,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
realistically, especially comedies
yeah,
like actual like comedic performance, like actual comedy movie. That movie was
yeah.
amazing. Rich is a huge fan of Ryan Reynolds. You should see how much he loves him.
Okay, I knew
Rich
Rich and I had.
loves Ryan Reynolds, like loves him.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, he hates Ryan
I'm a big
Reynolds.
fan too, actually.
No, he hates Ryan Reynolds. But oh man, we actually have quite a few comments. Let's see, where are we?
Good. I see some
Nope, I
cues.
ain't a human being. I'm an Aussie. That is it's very true, Rich. Very true.
I won't even attempt the Aussie accent,
All
which
right.
is what everybody tries to do.
Question from EC Ambrose. What do you find most enjoyable about the writing process?
Um,
Not the outlining.
not outlining. I have actually
Yeah.
been experimenting with outlining lately, and so I've
Yeah.
been doing a little more of that. The book I'm working on kind of requires it because it's so the plot is so layered. But I think for me the thing I like about writing is when I get into that state of flow, like that is probably
Yeah.
the closest I'm capable of coming to meditation. Like
Oh,
so I like when I sit down and start writing and then I look up like an hour later and I've got like 3,000 words or so and in there and they I don't recognize them. Like they're good. They tell a great story and I don't know where they came from. That's the part I like. It's like something has taken over and is doing the writing for me.
yeah. I mean, my favorite part of it is when I have a holy bleep moment while I'm writing and I get excited.
Yeah.
Like when I'm writing a book and going, "Oh man, that's amazing. That's going to be so cool." That's my
Yeah.
favorite moment. My heart starts pumping. I make sure I write everything down really quick cuz I don't want to like forget like what I'm thinking at the time because it might be something further in the book that's like a reveal or background or this or what or like maybe a location that I find out. That's my favorite part is when I'm writing and I get a oh yeah, this is going to be cool cuz
Yeah.
you're your own fan, right? So it's
Yeah.
like
You shouldn't be writing something that doesn't excite you. I mean, you should be the
yeah.
first reader and the most
Yeah.
excited reader.
I never want to get to a point to where I'm writing books and I'm like, okay, and then publish. Like I never want to be like, all right,
Yeah.
I want to be like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is gonna be
Yeah.
great. Like so, but Allison, that is a thing. The conspiracy theory is that
Yeah.
Kevin, Nick, and Ernie are one and the same. Never
Yeah.
all three
Yeah.
are in the same place at the same
We
time.
have never managed
Ah,
to all three be in the same place at the same time. So that even amongst the three of us, we are starting to question whether the other one is real or not.
so it's like it's almost matrixy in a way because it's like
Yeah.
existence and like realism and
Yeah. Yeah.
Dakota, Matt, it's really interesting knowing you as well as I do because I can see/hear you in your writing, and it's part of the reason I enjoy your work so much. Well, thank you. And I know that that's a big thing with Kevin as far as like personality in the writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't help but let my personality bleed through
Yeah.
in what I write, and which is not to say that the characters are me or some version of me.
No.
That's something I've
Yeah.
never bought into. But
You can thank Pete Venkman for all of this, actually.
you can thank Pete Venkman, Pete Venkman, and David Addison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Moonlighting and Ghostbusters. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it?
Who would
There
have
you are.
thunk
If you
it?
want, if
Who'd
you're
have thunk it?
trying to come up with the formula for a modern day Kevin Tumlinson, you take one part Moonlighting, one part Ghostbusters, and mix in a dash of Back to the Future,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
a smidge of
Doc
Deadpool.
Brown or Marty?
Probably more Doc Brown than Marty.
Yeah, I could see that. Because
Yeah,
I know you're so fascinated with like the science of Ghostbusters.
yeah.
So I could see you being
And
more on like the Doc Brown side. Yeah.
that whole like cobble together a time machine with spare parts, and
Yeah. See, I would be on the Marty side because it's like the wonderment and like the adventure of it, not really knowing what's going on. That would be like
Yeah.
more my thing.
Are you
Yeah, no,
telling me you built a time machine? Yeah, I'm not Marty.
1.21 gigawatts. What the hell's a gigawatt? Rich has a question for you, Kevin.
All
You're
right.
a fan of content marketing.
I am.
Well,
yeah.
he does content marketing. Well, I'm not sure as far as
I'm a
fan
fan.
of content marketing,
fan.
but
I'm a fan.
what would you recommend for someone who hates social media / marketing? Which I know, as you said at the top of the show, I don't use Facebook. So
Yeah, I don't use Facebook. I have a Facebook account. I use Facebook Messenger, but I stopped using Facebook forever ago because it just got so toxic.
Sure.
And then I went
Agreed.
to Twitter.
Oh man, I'm sorry, but it got more toxic.
I mean, if you hate social
There.
media, that's one thing. You don't have
Yeah.
to use social media. I mean, I'm not one of these people who believes that if you're trying to market, you must be on social media. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Try to find some kind of set it and forget it opportunity. Like I use it's called Smarter Queue, and it's you can preload content and have it post on Twitter, Facebook, etc. So you could just create content in a vacuum that you enjoy and put it out there with, and make sure that the content links back to your stuff, and you're good. You don't have to interact. That's against the advice of a lot of social media experts, but they're social media experts, not marketing experts.
Sure.
Marketing.
Have you experimented with Meta, with the actual Meta page that Facebook has put out, where
No.
it's Facebook and Instagram. It's everything condensed into like one thing.
Yeah.
Which I was actually interested in using because it's not social media in that it's just the behind the scenes metadata of it all.
Yeah.
So that was actually an interesting thing. I haven't dove into it, but I was actually very curious about it. So I don't know if anybody's actually used the background like meta.
I believe that Facebook has enough of my life. There's I don't need to give them anything else. So I don't use Facebook. I don't like what Zuckerberg and team have done with the platform, and so I avoid it. And I only use Messenger because that's where me and Nick Thacker and Ernie Dempsey managed to create our little group. And it's where, oddly, where most people end up being able to get in touch with me. So that's the only reason I use that. But no, I'm not interested in Meta.
Oh yeah, I mean honestly, without social media, I don't know where I would be.
Yeah.
As far as like, so my favorite author when I was, I'm going to say when I was younger because it was over 10 years ago, was Jeremy Robinson, and I messaged him back and forth all the time about his books and stuff. Yeah. And he one day messaged me and asked me to join his ARC group and do beta reading for him. And I was shocked. I was amazed. I was like, holy crap. And because of that, I eventually became an author, and it changed my life. And without stuff like what we're doing right now, I would probably still be running a bowling alley pro shop and kind of miserable like I did for 12 years.
Yeah, I will say social media, if nothing
The
else,
benefits are amazing.
it's about connecting with people, and if
Yes.
you use it for that, that's how you hear people talk about all the time how it's who you know, right? It's all about your
Yep.
network and your platform. I think social
Absolutely.
media for platform is played out. I don't think readers discover writers and books via social media. Not
No.
not on the scale that we need them to, but connecting with other authors, being a part of a community, finding
Yeah.
mentors. It's a great tool, and that's what I'd prefer to use it for.
Yeah, I mean, like stuff like we're doing right now is
Yeah,
like being able to hear from readers. Kevin and I
you
being able
consider
to
it
talk to
social
each other
media,
like this.
the stuff that
Uh,
we're doing right now, podcasting and all that.
you know what? What would so here's the question: would podcasting be what it is without social media, without YouTube, without all that stuff? Because I mean, YouTube
Well,
is
that's a good
technically
question.
social media, so it's like, would
Yeah,
podcasting even be where it is? Because I mean, I've been
I mean,
listening to podcasts for years. I mean, I'm talking years because fantasy
yeah,
football and like all that stuff.
I had a podcast before I had a Twitter account, so
Honestly, the only reason I have a Twitter account, and it's very rarely, is during fantasy football draft season when I'm like looking for
yeah,
experts' advice. That's the only reason I use one. It's actually not work related. It's more just personal. For a
yeah.
while, it was political, which was terrible, and then I really quickly decided to get off of that because I was like gut hurt because of how disgusting Twitter got. But luckily on Facebook, for me anyways, it never got weird because it's
Yeah.
just who you follow and it's what you choose to see. So that's kind of cool. Um, but here is what got me about John Wick is that they kept talking about how he uses improvised weapons, but the whole movie was all about fists, guns, knives. As Matt says, loads of violence, but for me, not that engaging.
Yeah, but he shot people with the knives and he stabbed people with the guns. So he was improvising.
It's true. Now, I will say, what you need to do is Terran Tactical is a gun and weapons page on they're a business. They're a really successful business, but they do a lot of Hollywood training when it comes to guns, and they trained Keanu Reeves and Halle Berry and a lot of the John Wick cast. And they do a lot of people. Post Malone did some shooting, which was very impressive. And if you know who Post Malone is, I was actually very shocked to see how well he can actually handle weapons. I was very impressed. But Terran Tactical, if you go on their Instagram page or you just Google it, they show Keanu training at their range for the first John Wick, and that's where he learned a lot of his weapons handling. And it's
Yeah.
very, very, very cool to see Keanu in a backwards baseball cap just rocking this AR-15 and these pistols and shotguns and just going to town on this range. I was like, holy crap. I mean, it's legitimate. Everything he does, that's just Keanu in a nutshell, though. I mean, that's just his level of work.
Yeah.
But, so Allison, see, when you said moonlighting, I automatically thought of Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd.
That's what you should think of. That's
Yeah.
the two.
Did you
the
see
two
the news
actors.
about Bruce today?
Yeah, I did.
That was
You
so
you have
disheartening.
no idea how heartbreaking that is for me either, because he
That
really was one of
hurt.
my mentors growing up, and I really did model myself after David Addison mostly. But I mean, there was a point at which if I remember the Seagram's wine cooler commercials, like if Bruce Willis showed up in a commercial for adult diapers, I was going to go buy those adult diapers. And it turns out
Yeah.
that may be a thing now. No, that's too soon. But yeah, very
I was about to
sad.
say well, theoretically we're all on our way, but you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, Bruce was officially diagnosed with dementia,
yeah.
which is just because what was he diagnosed with a year or two ago?
Some like aphasia or something.
Yeah, no, health wise, it's been a battle for him lately, and I mean, my grandmother went through Alzheimer's, dementia type of stuff, and
Yeah,
it's scary. It's scary, and it's heartbreaking, and for somebody like Bruce, who man, how
yeah,
many tens of millions of people has he touched and been like a part of their like us?
yeah.
So it's like we just did
I
the Fifth
will
Element
say,
show, and it's like I there was no
Yeah.
one better in the 90s. I mean, he was
For
the
several
man.
years now, though, there's been stirrings behind the scenes in Hollywood where he's acted very strangely.
Hmm.
I think there were probably some signs there for quite a while. I know the whole thing with Kevin Smith in the movie Cop Out. Um, you know, he kind of went off the deep end in that movie with some of the things he was doing. Um, there was, and back then people were there was a little rumor that he was sort of off his game. And I think it's just been steadily getting worse over the past decade.
Yeah, yeah. It's rough. I mean, and that's. I mean, what happened? What did you? Where were you when you found out that Michael J. Fox was diagnosed with Parkinson's?
Oh, I know. Yeah. That was tragic. I mean,
Yeah,
it's always,
bad
it is,
tidings.
there's been several like celebrity tragedies, celebrities dying or ODing or something like that. I'm not going to say that isn't sad, but that sort of thing doesn't hit quite as hard as say, Christopher Reeves,
Yep.
being paralyzed and Michael J. Fox
Yeah.
getting Parkinson's. And, that's the sort of thing that really haunts you because it, it's more than just career ending. Like
It's
that
life altering
yeah, it's
and just
life
yeah.
altering for them, for their families. Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah. I
there's been several like
remember
that.
when he left Spin City?
Yeah,
That's when he
yeah,
was diagnosed. I mean,
yeah.
100 I was a like Spin City, his character and the cast, everybody was amazing, and
Yeah.
Judd Nelson, and there was like such a great, I think it was Judd Nelson, wasn't he? Yeah,
Judd
that took
Nelson
over.
was on that. Did he? Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
think was he the one that took over for I think he was the one that took over for Michael J. Fox on the
It
show.
wasn't
Am I
Sheen.
wrong?
Um,
Oh,
what's his name?
wasn't
The
Charlie. Wasn't
Wasn't Charlie Sheen? I don't
no.
remember. It's
I thought
been
it was
that long
Judd. Yeah, I'm
though.
pretty sure it's Judd. I'm pretty sure
Maybe
I'm
it
right.
was.
But I remember when they wrote him off on the show because of his health stuff going on,
Yeah.
and I was just like, man, that's. I mean, don't get me wrong. The billions of dollars that he's raised for Parkinson's research and stuff. I mean, he's made such a huge difference
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's like that one hurt. That one hurt a lot. Like
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve was before my time. Like, I was born in '84, so I mean, Christopher Reeve. I love
Interesting.
Christopher Reeve and what he did, but
Yeah.
that didn't hit me as hard as Michael J. Fox would have.
Well, I was at a an event in Houston that Christopher Reeve was supposed to MC,
Oh wow,
and it was the day that the accident happened. No one had really heard yet, but they came and announced that he wasn't going to be able to do it, and they actually got James Earl Jones to sub in for him, and so I wasn't heartbroken, but the rumors of something had happened to him were all over the place. And then by the end of the
sure,
evening, we didn't have internet back at that point, at
no,
least not the way we have it now. And there were no mobile phones to pick this stuff up on, but people were starting to hear things over the radio or whatever. So by the time I left that, I'd already heard that he'd been injured in a horse riding accident. And
yeah, he was a equestrian. He was a jumper.
yeah, he was a
Yeah,
jumper. Yeah.
and his horse threw him and he broke his neck. Yeah,
So I remember the announcement though. I remember that's the thing that stuck with me is they did this announcement over the loudspeakers that he was in. They said he was injured and that he
yeah,
wouldn't be able to make it, and that we're sending him our prayers and best wishes, and that we would be. And then they announced that it was James Earl Jones, and everybody got excited. And James Earl Jones comes over and says, "I am your father," and then that was it. You know. So anyway,
yeah. I mean, that was. I mean, and then you think about like the ironies of life, which sucks, but is that Superman can't walk, and you're
yeah.
like, that was always one thing growing up where you're just like,
No, the
wow,
thing that hit
Superman can get
me,
hurt, and like,
yeah, it was the curse of Superman though,
yeah,
because he was like the third or fourth Superman actor who'd met with some strange demise. Although he didn't
yeah,
die at that
sure,
point, but so so there was that whole curse of Superman.
yeah,
So
yeah.
All
Um,
right.
we
We got more
James.
questions.
Yeah, I barely got through Deadpool mainly because the language and such violence to me wasn't that bad. Granted, there was humor, but the language got me. Yeah, it was rough. Since having my daughter, a lot of language bothers me more though so than violence, and
Yeah.
I 100% understand. I get it.
Yeah.
I
See, I don't
100%
have
get it.
kids, so I'm
Yeah,
completely heartless.
you are a heartless,
I
heartless.
don't experience human emotions.
We'll call a biestard. Trying to keep it. So, Rich, if you get the moonlighting musical going, Kevin, I think you better play
You
Madeline
know,
Hayes.
Rich, your burn would work a lot better if you'd spelled Madeline correctly.
That's not how. I mean, a lot of people throw random Y's into names. I don't know.
No, there's a Y.
There's
There's
Y.
no O.
Okay, okay.
That's okay.
Ray Braun,
I'm getting him back.
what's going on,
Hey,
Ray?
Ray.
How you doing, Kevin? Are you still thinking about sneaking in some sci-fi? Now I know
Yeah,
you did the sequel to Evergreen late last year. So,
which
but
I
what?
get. Yeah, does sort of somewhat count as
Yeah,
sci-fi, kind of sci-fi thriller.
yeah,
Ray's been with me since the beginning, man. He read the Citadel books and everything. I do. I think a lot about it, but what all the opportunities that come to me keep coming in as thriller opportunities. I love thrillers. Um, I have written sci-fi shorts, short stories and novellas, and so I think that it's still there in me. I still want to do that. Yeah, I will. I will eventually. I'll
yeah,
write another sci-fi novel eventually. I can't say when, but it's a
sure.
you never forget your first crush.
Allison, don't forget about the flux
How
capacitor.
could I?
No, nobody can forget about
How
it. Come
can
on.
I forget? Now, do we prefer flux capacitor charged by lightning bolt, uranium, or
Garbage.
Mr. Fusion?
Mr. Fusion.
Yeah,
Mr. Fusion is just so much more comical. Lightning is amazing. Like Lightning was so cool, but Mr.
yeah.
Fusion, when he's throwing the banana peel in the soda can,
I like how he poured the soda in first, and then threw the can in. That's the part that amused me.
Rich. Touche, Kevin. Touche. But I'll get you and your little dog too.
That's fine.
And he does have a little dog. He's interrupted
I do have a
podcasts
little
in the
dog.
past.
Yeah,
I remember why we were at a podcast. Actually, the first time I talked to Kevin a few months ago, and the door just slowly opened because of his camera angle. I couldn't see
yeah.
what was going
You
on.
can't see her because she's
I
like
saw the
only
door
ankle
open, and I'm
height.
like,
Yeah.
uh,
I guess we're lucky that she didn't start barking at me because usually what she's doing is telling me she wants to either go outside
yeah.
or eat something.
Ray again. Funny. I first hooked up with Kevin as an ARC reader through his website,
Yeah.
not social media.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I mean, I'm, it's very rare, I think, for me at least, to get a reader via social media, because you're just inundated with content and ads and people pushing stuff.
Sure.
And, it's not, I do promote my stuff on social media on the off chance. But if I wasn't automating that, I don't think I'd bother. I mean, I don't think anybody finds books that way.
Yeah. I mean, advertising wise, what's king right now is video. So it's
Yeah.
like there's not a lot of authors that do video or
Yeah.
are willing to do stuff like this. So I kind of understand it. I get it. Video is easy. It's people are more willing to watch a video. Look
Yeah.
at freaking TikTok, for instance, a video about nothing than they are to read an article about nothing. So it's
Yeah.
like, here we are. Dakota has a question for you, Kevin. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to check out your writing. Any recommendations on where to start? I have a very eclectic taste when it comes to reading, so pretty much anything is good for me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, everyone asks that question. It's very hard to answer. I mean, it just depends on what your preferences are. If you're a start at the beginning kind of person, I've got like 3 or 4 different series. Go pick any given number one. But if you're looking for archaeological thrillers,
Yeah,
my
like
Dan
similar to my
Kotler books.
stuff,
Yeah,
Kotler. Yeah,
Kotler.
the
Quelo
the
Medallion is the
the
first book.
Quelo medallion. And funny enough, there's a great wine label called Quelo.
Yeah, that's spelled with a C, by the way.
Yes.
Coelho Medallion. But it's a Portuguese name. I borrowed that from Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist. So,
Oh.
uh,
Yeah,
so
there's a
yeah,
wine family out in Oregon, the Coelhos, and
yeah,
they make some fabulous wine. So
I haven't tried.
Dakota will remember that from great Pinot Noir for what it's worth, the Coelho. But Dakota will remember that. That was a good seller for us. But yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'll go down to the very. Thanks for pronouncing that for us, Coelho. Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah, you're welcome. And it's fun.
You
It's
know, I know
great that
how
Kevin and I actually pronounce it the same, so that was a good thing.
Well, and the only reason I know how to pronounce it is because the guy who narrated that book, the original narrator of that book, checked with me to make sure it's pronounced Coelho, right? Because that's the Portuguese pronunciation. I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what it is."
Yeah,
so he
like the
I had
winemaker.
no idea.
That's actually the spelling for the winemaker. It's Brian Coelho. So yeah, it's the Coelho family. So yeah,
Yep.
And that's how I know it, because I was like, Colho. It's like Colho, and they're like, it's Coelho.
Well,
I'm like, all right.
and people joke, and Ernie and Nick teased me about this at first all the time, but like, that all my titles involved words that were very difficult to pronounce, and which is not true. It's Coelho Medallion, and then the next one.
Mine is tough sometimes. Mayan.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Do people say that?
No, they don't.
Yeah. I have a book called The Janai Sigil, and I've heard it called all kinds of things. One that I had to really fight laughing over was I was on a radio show, and fairly prominent radio show, and the guy referred to it as the Janny Sigil, and I'm like, yes, and I have to, for the next few minutes, discuss the Janny Sigil, and I'm like,
yeah, you
I'm
couldn't
avoiding.
correct him.
I
Yeah.
couldn't correct him. I couldn't even say. I actually, what I did was,
but you couldn't say the other pronunciation with a straight face, though. There's no way.
Yeah, I know.
Was it radio or is it video?
That was radio.
Okay, thank God. I would have been grinning. I would have been grinning like an idiot the whole time.
That's why I do like radio interviews. When I get invited to be on the radio, I mean, sure. I like doing TV.
The hell's TV?
I'm good with TV.
What's TV?
I'm good with YouTube. I'm good with, I have a face for radio. No, I enjoy doing those. Those are fun, by the way. Yeah. Radio is so different from everything else I do. I used to work in radio, so I mean, I know the rhythms of it. I know how it's supposed to go, but
I mean, I worked in retail my entire life, so face to face is more my style.
I like face to face too.
I like this kind of stuff where I can actually see a human being that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I prefer this. I prefer the video podcast style. So, I mean, so James, that's actually how I started doing arcs and getting into proofreading. I started messaging Ernie, and then eventually I started doing arc work for him. And it's not my day job, granted, but I love doing it. I thoroughly enjoy reading the drafts before the final copy. Yeah, I've been actually meaning to get a hold of James for that. So I'm happy you brought that back up, my friend. I'm sick of, I'm not sick. I can't say sick because she's my cousin, Karen. She is my main gal when it comes to proofreading nowadays. And she's, oh man, she's brutal. She is. Yeah. She is tough. She is so thorough that it's like, man, I feel like I'm a terrible author now because she catches so much stuff.
I know. Don't feel bad though. You know, that's the point of an edit. And, our job as authors are to tell. We're the ones who create the slab of marble. We're gonna start chipping away at that marble. Yeah. And then when it's done, someone else can come along and point out the little nick of stone here and there that we missed, and the cracks and that sort of thing.
Well, it's funny. Like, so like I've mentioned before, Rich and I did a Fifth Element podcast. My second favorite movie ever made, because I've mentioned my favorites over and over again on that show. But we talked about you on the show, how Pete Venkman kind of helped your personality develop.
Yeah.
And I unknowingly realized where some of mine was things like the scene where I say it all the time in my normal life. Like all the time. It's on the shows. I say it all the time where I say I speak two languages, English and bad English. And I had no idea that came from Fifth Element until I rewatched it again. because I've said that saying so much in my life that it feels organic, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was just
Yeah.
one of those things that I just identified with. And because it's true, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I don't speak Spanish. I don't have a second language. I speak, I try to speak English and I speak bad English. And
Yeah.
it just, I'm like, wow, that actually came from Fifth Element. And that was probably when it first came out in the, 97.
Mm.
It's amazing where a film can just influence you, 20 years later plus.
Yeah. I think if we're talking percentages, like 90% of my personality is cobbled together from film and TV.
It,
So,
it, it really is, to be honest. It really is.
well, if you think about it, that does make sense because I grew up with TV as my nanny, and like a lot of kids from my generation. And every time I ever moved, my wife picked up on this after we got married, and we moved a lot. My wife and I have moved a
Yeah.
lot. But she says, the first thing you do is you set up the TV. The very first thing, we move into a new house, new apartment, doesn't matter. The very first thing that gets set up is the TV. And then
Yeah,
that
because that
stays
dictates where
on while we
everything
do
else.
everything else. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's not that. It's not, in a sense, it's that. Kara makes the decisions on where things are placed.
sure.
She won't let me make those decisions. But what happens is there's a quietness in a new home that you're not adjusted to yet. There's
Okay.
for
Yeah.
my entire bachelor years, that was how I kept myself company, in the evenings. I didn't feel lonely because I had, Chandler and Ross and Rachel, and I had, Seinfeld, and I had all
Yeah.
these characters.
I
So
had Nash
yeah.
Bridges, and I was a big Nash Bridges guy.
I was all comedies and
Yeah.
sci-fi.
Well, I mean, Cheech Marin and Nash Bridges. I mean, there were some moments. Don Johnson and
Yeah.
Nash Bridges. That was
Yeah.
a great 1-2 punch. But
Yeah.
James speaks English and redneck.
I
So
grew up redneck.
yeah,
I
I've
can
been
I
in
can
South
slap some
Florida, so
redneck when
depending
I'm
on
pissed
where
off.
you live in South Florida, it's definitely English and redneck.
Mhm.
Where I am, there's a lot of redneck because it's out kind of near the boons of South Florida, so I get it. There was something else. Allison said something. I'm guessing I have his Return to the
Oh,
Bruno album.
Return to yes.
Okay.
That was Bruce Willis's album,
Okay.
and he did another one after
So I
that.
thought it was
He
Bruce.
did a couple of them.
Yeah,
I
he was
burned
actually a great
that
musician.
tape up. I
Yeah.
had the tape and then later the CD. I destroyed that tape playing it. Isn't that ridiculous, Allison? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
The only reason I bought that was because it was Bruce Willis, but he did have a song that did get on top 40 though.
Yeah.
So
Rich is still in the chat. Rich, do you remember what we talked about on the Fifth Element podcast where I said it was something and Hudson Hawk? I was combining two different things when it came to Bruce. I can't remember what we were talking about, but that was like one of my Hudson Hawk was one of my favorite movies growing up, and it still is.
Same.
I just
Yeah.
Danny Aiello and him were so good together.
To this day, I cannot use ketchup in a restaurant without saying they got the worst ketchup in prison.
And you know what it is? It's Swinging on a Star. It's
Swinging on a Star.
It
It's a
was such-
musical.
but it was such a great concept because they were thieves and crooks that kept time by singing songs at specific lengths.
And here's
It
the
was
thing:
such
that
an
movie got
amazing.
panned by the critics, but I have
Oh,
yet to
here it
meet
is.
a single person who watched it anyway who didn't love the movie.
Yeah, so Corbin Dallas was a amalgamation of Hudson Hawk and John McClane.
Okay.
And that was because he had the humor and he had just the slyness of Hudson, of the Hudson Hawk, Joe, and he was John McClane because it's just 90s Bruce Willis, but it wasn't the typical Bruce Willis that you were used to seeing.
No.
Corbin Dallas was more like comedic and laid back and more like, I don't want to say slapsticky, but he had more like looseness about him.
I will say this about Hudson Hawk. I remember because at the time that movie flopped, and I remember there was an interview with Bruce Willis on like 60 Minutes or something, one of the big news shows, the magazine shows.
Sure.
And they asked him about it, and he says, the thing is, I've made enough money from moonlighting and Die Hard that if I wanted to retire by a lake and skip rocks for the rest of my life, I could do it and still be a millionaire at the end. And I thought that's what I'm aiming for. I
Yeah.
want the sit by lake and skip rocks FU money. That's what I'm after.
So Ray, back to your sci-fi, maybe sneak in a collection of your sci-fi shorts.
I should do that. I have I think enough of them now that I could put together. I do actually have a sci-fi collection. I think I pulled it from distribution by this point. It needs editing.
Sure.
But yeah, I had a sci-fi collection, and a couple of them actually. So yeah, I should do that.
Allison, can you grab the first book on your shelf?
Which shelf, behind me or in front of me or to my right or over on my left? Which shelf?
Probably. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
The first book, the closest book to me physically at this moment is the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu.
My gosh, mine is not fiction either. So
hold on. Closest fiction to me is John Grisham's. I forgot I have a stack behind me too. Hold on. John Grisham, The King of Torts, which is the one I just started reading.
So this is depending on. Mine is the new Tim Tebow book, 1 Year Devotional, Mission Possible.
Okay.
So this is actually 365 devotional Christian read. And it's just a one-page kind of make me a better man type of book.
If I didn't have a very rare pile of project on the floor to my left, I would pan the camera around and show you the office. I never do this, I swear, but I put a pile of crap on the floor here for me to get to later. I've got a little special project in mind, and I'm building it from spare parts I had laying around.
Did you ever see the movie Almost Heroes?
Yes.
Okay. So with the women made of hay.
Yeah.
He looks back in the door and he goes, "I swear that never happens to me."
Yeah.
that got me. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. And Rich also says Richard E. Grant was the bomb in Hudson Hawk.
Yes.
He was good.
Hudson Hawk
great
was a great movie. Great movie. It had perfect cast. It had a perfect script. It had perfect
history
music.
behind it, like all the history behind it with Leonardo da Vinci.
Legitimate history.
Legitimate history.
That stuff was, with the exception of creating a crystal that make gold. I mean, it was all genuine history of Leonardo. In fact, that's where I learned for the first time any history about Leonardo. Honestly, I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know any of the stuff about the Schwartzes or any of that.
So Dakota, I know it is. So I debated not asking it for a reason, but I figured at least I'd throw it out there. And yes, I do remember the Pinot Noir as far as the pronunciation he was asking with the Pueblo. So
that tracks.
Ray, that was great reading your short stories and excerpts of the novels on your website. Yes, The Garden. He.
Yes. Yeah, Ray's actually been trying to get me to expand one of the short stories for years. So maybe.
You never know. Allison, Kevin, as you are not doing social media, well, to a degree, he's not doing social media. I will take it as that is why you haven't responded to my random interview questions over. Oh man, she's putting you on the spot. Wow, she's putting you on blast.
I'm sorry.
I've done 2 of them.
But yes, that's probably true.
Should probably just email him.
Yeah. Are you sending that to me on Messenger? Because
he checks
Messenger.
I've noticed,
I do check Messenger, and what I've noticed though is that sometimes people will send me something. Like I've had people complain that I'm not responding to their friend requests. I'm like, I never see any of this stuff. I don't ever know. Even when I go looking for it, I can't find some of it. So
really, really dumb is actually a few hours ago, about 4 or 5 hours ago, I asked Nick, who is my partner with Conundrum Publishing, hey, I need admin access to the Facebook account because I'm going to start bolstering the Conundrum Publishing Facebook account. And he goes, I already gave it to you. I'm like, no, you didn't. And I go into my notifications and it says pending request for approval. I'm like, oh crap, he did. I just never got
Yeah.
I never got the notification that he
I never get
gave,
that stuff. So
because I have to
Allison,
accept the admin request, and I'm like, I didn't
please,
even know you sent that to me.
yeah, please accept
Yeah.
my apologies.
Yes.
I do not mean to ignore anybody. That's never been my plan. If you're not,
Yeah.
if you want to reach out to me,
And I
I don't
will
know what
tell
to tell you
everybody,
now.
I will tell everybody listening and watching on Facebook, Allison has a group of Allison Valentine's random Facebook interview. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name, but you'll find it.
I would
She
love to
actually has
do that.
she has a group, and it's like 10 random questions, and it's like most embarrassing moment in your life, like this kind of stuff. It's not just work related. And it's really cool. Like I said, I've done it twice with her with these questions, and they're really cool.
Matt knows how to get hold of me.
Yeah,
If you can't get me, if you're sending me messages and
I
I'm
know,
not seeing it,
I know the deets.
get Matt to reach out to me.
I think that still means details nowadays, right?
I
They don't
feel
just say anything
horrible
weird.
when that sort of thing
Oh,
happens.
so do I.
Because I like talking to people about this stuff. I love doing interviews. I would never intentionally ignore someone.
I had Doctor Who and the Incredible Hulk. So what does that say about me?
I love Doctor Who, and I loved watching the Hulk too. In fact, I had a character when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s that I pretended to be, called the Creature, who was had red skin because that's the only color of makeup I could find, but had shredded shirt and shredded jean shorts, and that's what I went as Halloween like 3 years in a row. So, but Doctor Who I didn't get into until I was until the recent ones, like 2006.
Okay. Allison asks, Kevin, regards to your books to read, which is an amazing way for readers to reach new authors, have you ever thought about doing something similar for a younger audience?
Don't really know what that means. Now, I do want to say Books to Read is Draft Digital's thing, and I represent it, but I did not create it or anything.
Sure.
But I do use it, and it is amazing. Don't I don't know what
like
it
maybe
what she
for like
means.
young, for like
Because
young
you could
reader,
create
like genre.
you could create a like book tab or reading page or reading list or whatever for
Like young adult stuff.
young adult audience.
Okay.
Easy enough. So yeah, sorry, Allison.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk to me about that, reach out through Matt if you have to.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it because you can totally do that. Question for
So,
both of you. Okay.
question for both of you. If you had to pick one series to write for the rest of your career, which would you choose? Not based on sales, but enjoyment. And Kristen Williams happens to be my wife. So
Okay.
So she's
Well,
listening
hello,
from
Kristen.
the other room. Yeah, watching from the other room.
I will say for me,
Not based on sales, just enjoyment.
not based on sales, if all I could ever write again for the rest of my career was this, I'd probably write the Kotler books because it's the character I've spent the most time with. It has been my biggest success financially, yes, but it's also been the book that I feel shifted gears for me as an author and
Sure.
made me the author I am. So
Yeah.
what about you?
Mine. So this is where it gets weird. So mine is, I guess you would expect me to say the Jack Riley series, which it is. Like, that's the one I enjoyed the most. Like, I absolutely love writing that series. Series wise, my favorite character is Frank Moon from My Unseen series, which I just republished. Used to be called Dead Moon. Frank is basically me in the situation of a post-apocalyptic world. So it's first person present. It's all in the moment with the way it's written.
Yeah.
I love writing those books because of like the enjoyment I get just putting myself in the moment. As far as like research and as far as just like the overall like aspect of the series itself, it's definitely my Jack Riley series. I love Jack. I love the world that I'm building with him, and I love anything like history related. That's the one thing with the Frank Moon books is they're action horror thrillers. It's set in an apocalyptic kind of world. It's not these archaeological thrillers, action adventure novels. So, I mean, Jack is my answer, but Frank's a close second. He really is. So we have a ton of questions and stuff coming through. Holy cow. Um, let me get caught up. Let's see. Let's see. Uh, Dakota's very right. Sometimes the critics just get it wrong, which I
Yeah.
think I used that argument talking about Gladiator, because Gladiator wasn't as highly thought of when it first came out as I thought it would be, based
Yeah.
on the cast and based on the writing and based on when I saw it in theaters on opening weekend. I was like, holy crap, that might be the greatest thing I've ever seen. So yeah, sometimes the critics just flat out get it wrong. That's why when you see Rotten Tomato scores on movies, take them with a grain of salt. I will tell you that. So it's one of those things where the critic has an agenda a lot of the time. Maybe there's an actor they don't like. Maybe there's a writer they don't agree with. Maybe they're not a big fan of big CGI movies. Maybe they want smaller indie films. So they will improperly rate a film based on their own judgment. So you have to be
Do
very
you
careful.
use critics to guide your like movie watching experience?
Not at all, actually.
Yeah, me neither.
For me, it's more actor related, and then
Yeah.
I look into what I mean, the premise of it all. I mean, for me, it's probably more genre related than it is what it, like as much as I love John Krasinski and I love everything he's done, A Quiet Place was great, but I'm not a huge fan of the genre.
Yeah.
So that's all it is for me. It's more like I was more like that kind of stuff. So it's like it's genre related. Like when I see one of my favorite action adventure actors do something very serious and like very like dramatic,
Yeah.
um, I may not see it just because I don't like that style of movie. So it's
Yeah.
probably more genre than anything. I'm saying it out loud. But James, the first Grisham novel I ever read was The Client. I read it right
Yeah.
after it came out in paperback, and I read it in less than 4 hours. It was that good to me.
That's impressive because I don't think I know of a Grisham book that's less than 400 pages. So
Yeah,
that's a good chunk of reading in one sitting.
I
I
don't.
think the
Yeah, go ahead.
I read pretty sure I read The Firm was the first thing I read back, probably close after it came out. But I've been on a real John Grisham jag lately because I'm trying to. I have this thing where when I've decided I want a John Grisham level career, so I'm studying the man and everything he's written, and so I'm reading all 45 of his novels in a row, and I'm watching every interview, reading every interview. Anything John Grisham right now is on my plate.
Yeah, Rich was talking to me about the what are they called? The what do they call it? The writing courses and stuff that people are going
Masterclass.
masterclass, and he was
Yeah,
talking about Baldacci's was amazing,
yeah,
and there's a few guys that have done them recently that were like really eye opening with like certain things. So
yep, yep.
that's kind of cool that things like this are just popping and going through. Um,
Some of those are
oh,
pretty cool. I don't
oh,
have
they're
a
in the
subscription anymore, but I did
uh,
several of. I did every writing one
they're in the
up until
message
recently.
requests bit that I never remember to look at. Yeah, there's a separate field for message requests, which I don't understand a lot of the time.
Which why? Yeah, isn't that counterproductive for the entire? And if I don't know that it's there, why would I go looking for it? That's like when people
I
get mad at me because their
think
email went to my junk folder.
I
You
think it's
know,
kind of the same thing where I think message requests is if somebody does not follow you or are friends with you but tries to message you.
but shouldn't it at least alert you that you have a
Well,
message so that you can decide
uh,
whether you want to?
yeah, yeah,
I mean, how
that's a
do you
whole
make friends?
yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But I think that's why it does it. So there's a reason. It doesn't have to be a good reason, but at least there's a reason. Um,
Yeah.
but So, John Dolan, how you doing? Not very proficient with Facebook Lives, but I wanted to say once again how much I love the Jack Riley series. Well, thank you. And especially since my father worked for the National Park and Forest Service for most of his life, and his name was Jack. LOL. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Jack was NPS, National Park Service, for a bit, and now he is a Tactical Archaeological Command operative, agent, investigator, whatever you want to call it. They don't
It's
really
very
have a title.
it's very James Rollins of you with
Yeah.
that character. It's very similar.
So it was kind of weird because then Harvey Bennett,
Yeah.
Nick's guy,
Yeah.
NPS, uh, Jeremy Robinson had a character, Mark, the heck was his name? Mark Hawkins, who was
Yeah.
Island 37. He was in a few different books. Great character, also NPS. all Yellowstone.
Yeah.
100% on accident while Jack was a Yellowstone Ranger.
Yeah.
Mostly because the first book in this series, when I pitched this series to the publisher, that's signed through Severed Press. When I pitched the series through the publisher, the first book was supposed to be the Roosevelt Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be about Devil's Tower. And that's what the second book was about. But they wanted something bigger and more like international because they're an Australian publisher. So
Yeah.
I get it. So the whole idea was Jack was supposed to be in Wyoming, which is where Yellowstone is. And the obvious choice, since he's ex-military, I was like, oh, maybe he's struggling with PTSD. He's doing this. So he needs something where he's involved, but it's quieter and it's more like not as engaging. So NPS just sounded great to work with.
Yeah.
And then it became the second book of the series. And then, it was kind of an accident thing. It was based on where the series was supposed to start versus where the series went.
That's, so Dan Kotler is this multi PhD, super character. And really the reason that happened was because I only wrote that first book because Nick dared me to on air. And I cobbled together a story real fast. And I could see right away that it could lead to a series. And what I was afraid of was all my background at that point was primarily with writing about quantum physics and other science related topics. And so what I wanted to do was give myself an out. Yeah.
Nerd.
Yeah. Yes. I wanted to stay close to shore.
Yeah.
Because I was writing archaeological thrillers and I know quite a bit more than I thought I did, really, but I was afraid I'd run out of material. So I left myself an out so that I could start writing in at least some of the quantum physics stuff that I'd done. So I made him a dual PhD. And now I wish I had gone with anthropology and I think I was thinking maybe forensic psychology.
Ooh.
Would have been a great double.
Yeah.
But
so Allison, I've got a question for you both: DC or Marvel? And which character would either of you choose to be, and why? So 2 parts. My comic books growing up was always DC. It was always DC, and the exception being X-Men. But I was always an X-Men guy. But DC, I always grew up as a Superman guy. I loved the Superman comics from years ago. I loved Green Lantern. Probably because Superman was like the man back in the 80s and 90s. It was like Superman was like the comic book hero. As I got older and I got more into Marvel and I realized, wow, these guys are amazing too. I had that remember that crossover novel, DC versus Marvel?
Yeah.
I might actually still have it somewhere. I don't know. But nowadays it's more cinematically, Marvel's just had a lot better success because
they own it right now. We'll see what happens now. James Gunn is at the helm of
well,
DC.
You say they own it right now, but when you really think about it, besides their TV shows, which have been good, they really have kind of been struggling.
DC or Marvel?
Marvel. Ever since the Avengers ended, and it's become kind of more wide open, and they're not.
I don't disagree. But there's been no offering from DC.
No, 100%
since then.
100%.
So I think that there's potential. I think the Snyder cut of Justice League could have been their breakwater moment, but they flubbed it. But
yeah, they did. And now the guy leading the current DC universe,
James Gunn. Yeah.
No, I was saying the actor. The Flash has a lot on his plate that he shouldn't.
This is
Ezra Miller has
so
some issues.
torn. Ezra Miller is
that movie looked great,
not
but
a good person. Yeah,
he's
the
a
movie
terrible person. But
when it comes to him portraying that character, I'm like, that's the perfect. It's not the Flash that we all grew up with, or that any of us knew from comics. But
although we get a lot of heat from the TV show Flash guy, that actor, everybody's just gaga over. But the movie looks great, the Flash movie, but man, I just don't want to support that human being. I
have to answer this question though, because
yes, go ahead.
I am contractually
obligated. I didn't answer the the character.
Oh yeah, which character would you be?
So when I was a kid, it was always Cyclops.
Okay.
Because I had glasses and I just thought he was kind of like I just thought he was like, oh, cool, glass. You know, like you see the eyes, like his superpower is his eyes,
Interesting.
and he was
Okay.
the leader. He was the man, and I grew up watching the '90s X-Men, which they're about to reboot. You know, X-Men
Yeah.
'97,
Yeah.
and greatest might be the greatest animated show ever, at least
You,
in my
you know
eyes.
what was interesting about Cyclops, and I won't say that he was one of my favorite characters or anything, but here's what's truly interesting to me about him. Um, the visor and everything is there because of an injury. So he really doesn't have. So to me, thinking about that as a character, like what an interesting choice to make. To you gave
Yeah,
this guy this ability. You didn't have to limit him in any way, right? Just give him control of this ability. But you gave him this injury that now makes it so that he has to wear this visor. That's an interesting choice to make for
and I
that
liked it
character.
when they started giving him the sunglasses too, that had the
Yeah,
reflectors, that had the
yeah,
red whatever they were.
yeah,
But I thought that character, and he was very uptight, but he also just battled Logan really well with their
yeah,
personality trait, and that was before there was like this weird love triangle.
yeah.
But because in the animated show that really didn't exist, Logan was flirty with Jean, but he wasn't like yeah. But yeah, he was always one of my favorites just because there was like this disability handicap thing, but he was also just like the leader of this ultimate team,
Hmm.
and he had this just massive weapon at his disposal, and I just thought it was cool.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could get behind that.
and okay,
Mine,
yeah,
I was always a Marvel kid,
okay.
uh, straight up, and my character was Spider Man, and I subscribed to every Spider Man comic that existed. The two the
There's a lot of Peter in you. I can see that.
well, if you think about it,
Comic book Peter. There's a lot of
yeah,
comic book Peter.
he was a
Yeah,
smart ass. He's smart,
yeah,
right? He solves his problems with his mind and his powers. I mean, he was just as likely to solve a problem by using chemistry as he was using his spider powers. That's one of the things I always thought was cool. I went into chemistry in high school. I had my choice of sciences, and I chose chemistry because Spider-Man was a chemist. And when I got married, my wife and I went to pick out a ring. We didn't have a ton of money. I found a ring, and it's been replaced now by a very special ring made for me by my good friend. But the first ring I owned was specifically bought because it was round and had these ridges all around it and looked an awful lot like a Spider-Man web shooter. So I
oh,
was a big
cool.
Spider-Man
Interesting.
fan. Yeah.
Interesting. No, that is kind of cool. So this is an easy question, Kevin, to outline or not to outline.
So
Now
I mean,
you're also the questionnaire is a
yeah.
deep uh, Nick Thacker style outliner.
Okay. Yeah. I have always been a pantser,
Hmm.
always, and so every book I've written to date has been one that I started with a title and then wrote the story that as it came to mind. So I was a discovery writer, but I will confess that I'm working on a book right now that the complexity is such that I needed to not just outline, and there's 11 pages of this outline currently. Uh, so it's a very detailed and it's too much, honestly. This is proof that I don't know what I'm doing with an outline. I've also created a murder board using Apple Freeform. So that's how complex the plot is to this
Interesting.
book.
Wow.
So so I'm not a big fan of outlining. Well, let me just say this: I've always been kind of envious of people who can outline because I'm like, what a cool skill. But I always felt like I blew my load basically when
Yeah.
I was outlining, and so I never did it. But now I guess I crossed a threshold when I turned 50, and suddenly I want to be a legitimate author and
Yeah.
do it
So
right.
yeah, I mean, if anybody's listened to either the podcasts that I've been on, I mean, they know I'm kind of a tweener.
Hmm.
Um, I let the story flow, but I have an idea of where I'm going preset. So I try to outline 2, 3, 4 chapters ahead to give myself a target, but I don't really go any further than that. And for me, honestly, I don't have the foresight to go that far into the future, into a story, and remember it all.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just writing in the moment. It's the organic feeling of it all. I also just love doing it. I love being able to kind of figure out the story as I go. I just think it's fun. It makes the job more fun.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really what it is for me. Well, what I will say is my it's not really a big bibliography, but it's like my Microsoft Word. I'll have like a file that's like my notes. So it's like all my characters, their background stories, specific scenes I want to include, but they're not like in order. Like it's just cool crap I want to include into the story, and then I'll figure it out as I go. So I have like a very large Word file with like a bunch of random stuff that I'm going to include into the story. So, I mean, if you want to call that an outline, you can call it an outline. But it's not like chapter to chapter. Like I know Rick Chesler does this where he outlines every chapter before he writes a book. And like there's some guys that just go super, super dense with outlines, and I get it. And Nick's a whole different story because of the dictation thing he's doing right now.
Yeah.
You need an outline to do that. So I 100% understand it. Here is the Rich. So with Masterclass, the best ones I've watched were Dave Baldacci and Dan Brown. Dan Brown's would be interesting too. The BBC version, Maestro, Lee Child's was okay, and Alan Moore's was yet to be watched. And you are kind of figuring out Lee Child's British. It's kind of interesting when you think
It is
about
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's
And
written what I consider a very American character.
Yeah, and it was so Rich being so this is behind the scenes pulling the curtain way back. Rich is an Aussie. He's in Newcastle, Australia, and they speak and read and write the King's English, and so it's British style. And we were always talking how it would behoove a lot of English style, whether Canadian English or Aussie English, to write American because of just where the dollars are, and that's just media in general. As far as, and we were talking about that, and then we brought up Lee Child because we were like, hardly anybody understands that he's British, he's English, and I use those interchangeably, and I'm sorry, British and English, but but he writes one of the biggest boisterous American characters in like book history with Jack Reacher. So you're like, holy crap! It's like you really. It's it, and Matthew Riley does the same thing. His Jack Riley, see, that's where the name comes from. His Jack West Jr. series is not an Aussie English typical series. It is an American English series. So it's just it's kind of interesting where that can sometimes play out like that.
Yeah.
James, I was in a motorhome with my grandparents as they were taking us on vacation. So I just sat in a chair and read because there was nothing else to do. And by the way, motorhome is a much better way to travel than just going in the truck.
Obviously, I agree.
You have a little experience with the motorhome /RV / Winnebago.
Yeah.
So,
I think grand total, we spent at least 4 years on the road full time. 2 of those in a
cool.
full-size RV. 2 of them in a travel van, with a few in between. There was a pop-up and a bumper pole camper. So we had 4 RVs in a 4-year or 6-year span, and spent full time on the road. So I wrote 6 books in that van.
That's incredible. And what he's talking about is RV life type of stuff where,
hashtag van life.
Yeah, van life, all that stuff. Yeah. We've talked about it on other shows before, other real life fiction podcast shows about that. So that was kind of cool. But Ray, I'm all scatterbrained. 1 year on you guys and the other on the Daytona duels. Poor timing.
I don't know what the Daytona duels are.
I'm actually very interested to know what they are.
Is it a car racing thing? That's got to be a car thing.
Unless
Daytona.
It's a band, maybe? I don't know. James Rollins. Now that's one author I wish I could read for. I love the Sigma 4 series. Yeah, James Rollins is huge for me.
I've interviewed him a few times now, and I just, in fact, today we recorded so I'm now a co-host on the Writers Inc. podcast with JD Barker, and I interviewed James Rollins for that show, and today we recorded the wrapper for that, the actual show. So next Thursday, I think, or next week at least, you'll be able to listen to an interview with James that I did. So if you tune into the Writers Inc. podcast.
Yeah, I was really heartbroken when Monk lost his hand. Really heartbroken when Monk lost his hand. It was one of those things where I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And then he got a Luke Skywalker cybernetic version.
It's cybernetic hand.
With the cuff, the magnetic cuff, and then it could do like his little thing where it walked around.
Yeah, I should have asked him about that. I think I think
much inspiration in that hand.
Yeah. I think that I think that you do that because you're inevitably going to forget that character no longer has a hand.
It got to a point, especially when he lost the prosthetic, and I think they were in Chernobyl, and he lost the prosthetic, and he was just one-handed Monk, and he was just like, uh-oh, now what, It was kind of cool. It was very odd because I remember they had to cut his hand off with an axe. I think his boss did it.
Yeah.
It was a horrifying scene. I think that's how the book ended, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember what book it was, but that was rough. Rich, I love the idea of a murder board.
Man, let me tell you, I've always wanted a murder board. I grew up like everyone else watching crime shows.
I was about to say, can you expand what murder board is? Because it can be a little weird if you don't know what it is. If you're not familiar
with the concept, the murder board is when you and it's pure fiction from what I can tell. I don't think I've talked to 100 FBI agents and cops, and they all tell me that none of them have ever used this. But it's usually a whiteboard.
Is that with the strings?
They'll do the strings.
Okay.
Usually, what it always involves is a whiteboard with photographs of suspects, and then like a photograph of the victim, and then each suspect would have like a Post-it note or something with left hand missing or whatever. And
too soon. We just talked about that.
I know. It's called a callback. So the idea is you've got the entire crime is mapped out on the murder board, and you'll see sometimes they'll use strings. That this is usually when they're doing a conspiracy theory, or they're trying to connect people to the in the crime. So that's usually more white collar crime. Like this guy is the head of this organization, and it's connected to this organization and that organization. So I use now.
It feels a lot like outlining.
It's a lot like outlining. That's why I'm so excited to do it.
I don't like it.
I don't like outlining, but I do like this concept. I've always wanted to do this because I've seen it a billion times on TV. But I use a piece of software that comes free with Apple now called Freeform, which will let you create, flow charts and all kinds of stuff. And so I've been dying to try this. The thing that sparked this for me was I used to watch Castle, and there was an episode of Castle because they always have a murder board in the precinct, and it's an old school murder board with, photos and stickies and things like that. But he gets basically fired from his consulting job, and Beckett shows up at his apartment, and in his office he's erected a high-tech touchscreen giant murder board with everything is digital, and he can just touch the screen and move things. And I'm like, I could totally make that.
I mean, you're doing this podcast on like a 40-inch screen, so I mean,
yes. Yeah. If you're not aware, in front of me is a 42.
You can tell if you're watching video, his eyes are going all over the place.
Yeah, my eyes
screen is freaking huge.
I try to keep my focus on the camera.
That's me right now.
In order for me to read comments, things like that.
I have two 27-inch monitors. My camera is in the middle of both of them. I have Facebook Live on that side, and I have StreamYard on this side. But the problem is the comments are all the way over over here. So I'm going like this, trying
This
to
is the
read them all.
comments. When you see me
Yeah,
looking over like this is
sure.
comments. This is me looking at Matt. This is
Hi.
me looking at some research I have open over
Uh-oh.
here.
So here's the $1 billion question. Kevin, where did Jim Riker come from, and was it Nick's idea? LOL.
No. So I had been approached by a publisher, and just before the pandemic, they had asked for if I was willing to pitch something. They said pitch 3 series. So I pitched 3 series, and one of them was called The Consultant. And then they picked that one, and they said, okay, pitch 3 books for that. And I pitched 3 books. And just as I sent them that, the world ended, and
Sure.
that publisher basically went under. So I had this concept laying around for 3 books and a character and all this stuff. And his name was not Jim Riker at first. I will confess that. But Nick and I started talking about, do we want to collaborate on something? And so I
This
said,
is your first collaboration, right?
it's not. We did a little sci-fi thriller series of shorts called The Lucid, which we actually
maybe
need
this
to
was your
finish.
first full length stuff that you.
This is the first full-length
Okay. Maybe that's
novel
what
that
it
we
is.
did
Okay.
together. And
Sure.
so what we ended up doing was I handed Nick the pitch, and he created an outline, and then I wrote the book based on the outline. And
Sure.
so I'm going to be just completely honest with you. That book is amazing, and I need to get to the second one. I owe him a second book now.
Yeah, you
He's
were
already
really
given me the
excited for that
outline.
when you were writing it. So, or right
Yeah.
when you were finishing it up. Yeah, I
And
know you were very excited.
I
for
will
that.
be working on the next one, but I've got too many things on my plate at the moment. But I am we've got an outline for the second of those. So and I need to knock it out.
Allison was going to ask pen and paper or computer for your first draft. First draft is computer, but outlined and stuff is usually pen and paper for me, at least.
Yeah, I don't. I love pen and paper. I've got a passion for it, and I do a ton of journaling.
Yellow ledger pad guy.
I've always wanted to be that guy, but I have to write on a computer. Actually, what I do, I have to have a keyboard, and so I use I write in Scrivener. I have Scrivener on my iPad and on my phone. Believe it or not, I do an awful lot of writing on my phone. Sometimes with my thumbs. I've written entire books with my thumbs on my iPhone. But I have a keyboard, a little Logitech keyboard. I also have this one, this guy, which is a lot of fun.
Clack, 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 clack.
Really loud, really
clack,
clacky.
clack,
I love it. But I've got a kickstand on my phone so that I can, wherever I am, I can pop the phone out as a monitor and sit and write and type up a book wherever I am. So
that's cool. Yeah,
I've always got a way to write.
Yeah. So R.L. Kennedy, who has this post-apocalyptic series, she actually writes her entire first draft on pen and paper.
I am always impressed by that.
It's she said 2 entire ledger pads, front page only, are about 80,000 words. And she writes all of it by hand. And she showed me, like, when I did an interview with her a while back, and she showed me, like, it's literally just filled. It's like,
I have written things that way. In fact, I've got a book that I probably need to get back to someday. I wrote it very early. It was before I actually published. I've always meant to get back to that and finish it, and I think it's pretty decent. But like Neil Gaiman, he buys these notebooks and writes his books in these notebooks first. If I had someone else doing the transcription of it for me, I would probably do that more often. But knowing I got to go back and do it.
Yeah. Matt's a plantser, combo of planner and pantser, who writes from the seat of their pants.
Yeah. No, we call those plotzers.
Plotzers. Yeah, I was about to say, or lancers.
Yeah. I like plantser.
Plantster.
That's good.
Plantster. That's pretty darn close. And she also, I had a live workshop with Dan Brown years ago. He's local to me, and he was a fantastic teacher.
I would love to meet Dan Brown in person. JD Barker lives like a few blocks down from him, and so I've been trying to con him into letting me come visit. So we
Yeah,
can
and I
go
think this was
visit.
also Dan. His masterclass, he comes across as so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Which I could see. I've seen his interviews, especially when like Da Vinci Code and Angels and
Yeah.
Demons and stuff.
I enjoyed the master
Yeah.
class. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. James, I love Jack Reacher, but never liked the movies because the Tom Cruise was just way too much. Yeah.
But so Hugh
Get
Jackman
it.
was too big to be Wolverine, and that worked out. But have you seen the series, James? Did you watch the Amazon series? Because it's excellent.
He is Jack Reacher.
That's Jack Reacher.
And it's you know what? It's cool. It's cool to see a guy like that who is more known for like as a stunt actor, to get a role to where he is the star of this hit series. That was cool. And he's good. The duels are the qualifying sprints for the NASCAR Daytona 500. Daytona duels.
So it is a car thing.
Yeah, it's NASCAR. It's Daytona. Come on.
Daytona.
You don't even have to know racing to know what the Daytona 500 is.
I got it. I'm in.
Allison, who is in England. I know a lot of British authors that have adapted to writing American English for their books. For example, Realize, yes, the S and the Z thing, color. Yeah. I can't stand the OUR thing, color, and several other words and phrases. The other one is center. It doesn't really bother me. Center.
Yeah,
center and the E.
Yeah.
And
so what's really interesting
in a video game,
there are certain words that I write and that the grammar check software like Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly will nail me saying this is the British spelling. Yeah. And I'm like, but that's the way I want it. I want that word like
burnt,
leapt.
Burnt.
Left is the one that nails me on.
What are you going to call it? Are you going to call it burned orange or are you going to call it burnt orange?
Right. No one says
the
burned.
The brand says burnt.
No one says leaped. No one says these things.
It should be LEPT.
Yeah.
Leapt.
Yeah.
Not leaped.
Not leaped.
Not leaped. So unkempt.
Unkempt.
Should be unkept. It's like it's not kept. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
Here's the man himself we were bashing when we were talking about this. I hadn't read the books before seeing the movies. This is talking about Jack Reacher. So to me, they were good action thriller movies. Having read the first book, I'm more interested in the Amazon series.
I think you will not be disappointed. That first season of the Amazon series is the first book. So,
and then I think the Amazon series will show Reacher more as he should be, but I don't have it since I don't have Prime. I need to have Prime. Come on.
You need to find a way to get that. It's excellent.
Everything about
excellent.
Just shipping Prime is worth it.
Prime. Yeah, I pay. It's gone up. It's twice as expensive now as when I first got it, but I use it all the time.
John Dolan, I will say Jack Riley is now part of my top favorite series. Well, thank you. The others being Sigma Force, okay. The Alex Hunter books, Greg Beck, awesome. And perhaps my favorite, The Event Group. Ooh, David Goldman. I'm sorry, you're not.
No Kotler.
No Kotler.
No Alex Kane.
Eventually, I'll get my writing in order and hopefully be able to live up to all this talent. Oh, you'll get there. You'll get there. Believe me.
You'll get there. You're probably already there. You know, they say the first million words is practice.
Stephen King.
Yeah.
Stephen King.
I am well past 1 million words, but I still believe that I'm still learning. And I think all of us will be forever.
Good night, EC. Good night, Chris. Thank you.
Good night, EC. Is it EC or Eck? Because I kind of like the idea of someone named Eck.
Well, it's E. Chris Ambrose as far as the books are concerned. So
you'll always be Eck to me.
You'll always be Eck. You're the best Eck I've ever met. So, but thank you very much. Wow, we are actually caught up on comments. That was
good.
Rapid fire right there.
But, I liked it. All right.
Anything?
No more comments.
Oh no, no. You know what? Allison will not let us quit. Which characters that have been adapted to TV have been a disappointment?
The Robert Langdon from the Dan Brown the series that they did with Dan Brown's character. That was a disappointment. Others.
I mean, you could really go all over the place with this. So I mean, so if it's just strictly TV or if it's just strictly media, like movie TV. I mean, I know a lot of people had a problem, and I know you did too, with Nathan Drake with Uncharted. But I was on the other side of that coin, just being thrilled to have a Uncharted movie with great actors. It wasn't necessarily the portrayal of the characters that I was focused on. So, I mean, I guess it depends on what angle you're going for. But, I mean, there have been plenty of these that have been
I feel like
just
I should clarify
miserable.
because my disappointment with Uncharted the movie, I didn't realize when I watched the film, I didn't know there was a game. I just didn't think it was a good movie.
Kevin living in a hole for the last 15 years.
I don't get to play games. I write books.
So here's what you do is I've talked about this several times on air is YouTube, Uncharted cutscene movies. So it is the video game cutscenes, which nowadays are all mocap and live action. They're just obviously overlaid, animated. And you could just watch all of the cutscenes. They're like 2+ hours a piece. I mean, they're like full-length movies, and you'll get a sense of what you're supposed to want to see.
You know,
they're fun. They're really fun.
I actually watch quite a few of those things. Like there's a lot
I
of
love cutscene movies.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job. So, like, in fact, in a lot of respects, I wish they would just release those as movies. A lot of the games based on like, you know, Batman or the Marvel characters, or whatever, will have those, and they're very interesting stories. You know, I could just sit and watch those. I don't care about the game. I'm probably never going to play the game.
The ones that I watch are usually games that I have played. So it's like the Tomb Raider trilogy that came out as the last few years, and then the 5 Uncharted games. They're all games that I have been like enthralled with and like attached to as just a player, but just don't have the time to sit there and play through the games because the playthrough is a lot longer than just the cutscene movies. So that's usually what it is for me. But so this is a little off key because I really want to keep talking, but I really have to go to the bathroom. This is like
I'm getting there.
This is like Marvel Endgame, Marvel Infinity War style. Like I really have to go to the bathroom, but the credits just started and you can't go yet. This is at a certain point to where I'm literally going to go and then come back. So I will put up
we could wrap up. We got people exiting at this point. I mean, we could just go ahead and wrap up.
I have like 7 questions that have come in. It's completely. It's up to you. I mean, I mean, we can.
You know what I'm going to do? I really have to go to the restroom as well, but I'm going to tough it out.
I'm not going to tough it out.
I'm here
I'm
for these guys.
Okay.
This column of people over here. So you go relieve yourself, Matt, and I will.
So
take
here's
care
Ray
of
for you. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
You're going to just leave that one up the whole time you're gone? Hi, Ray. So AIs like Grammarly have a ways to go as a tool for fiction writers. If you're writing a dissertation, fine, but you get your effing rules. I translated effing rules out of my author's dialogues. I agree, and I stopped using Grammarly for that reason, or that's one of the reasons I stopped using Grammarly. I actually now I prefer Pro Writing Aid. One, because I know the guys. I've met them and interviewed them, and they're a fun bunch. We seem to like each other. I feel like that is much more geared for the fiction author than some of the other tools. It's not always right. It has a lot of quirks, and it does always annoy me when it starts catching me on British versus American English. But I enjoy using it. The reason I like it, though, the main reason I really enjoy it is because it has the ability to open and edit Scrivener files natively. So I can actually open the Scrivener file, run the check, do the corrections and everything, save it, and then when I go back to Scrivener, it's all there. I have my whole gamut of editing tools that I run everything through, and that's one of them. So
100% agreed. I can't tell you how much I agree with what you just said.
Yeah. So that's it. That's my position on forced castration, and Matt has graciously volunteered. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, so. I mean, I've had children, so I'm probably due. But so John, the first 1,000,000 words may be practice, but my projects is sci-fi, I need to break out the world building and
Yeah.
simply write.
Yeah,
Shockingly
at some
difficult.
point you got to stop designing
Yeah.
you can become a professional world builder if you're not careful. And I'll tell you, John, my first series was sci-fi. First books
Yeah.
I ever released, and they did fairly well, and I really enjoyed them. They were a story that I'd been kind of kicking around in my head for most of my life. So there was a lot of world building there, but yeah, you don't. The thing is, I tell people, and I have a book you do not have to buy because I'm going to give you all its secrets right now. But I have a book called 30 Day Author. And one of the things I talk about in that book, and one of the things I talk about when I do talks at conferences and things like that, you need to treat all your writing as practice. Um, one of the things that I find annoying is when people who say they want to be a writer or an author will send me a text message or a DM in social media, and it's like broken, it's like shorthand and broken English, and there's nothing, they didn't put any effort into it. Lots of misspellings and typos, man. I get it. I have a lot of typos, but you should treat everything you write as practice for your craft, because ultimately that's how the way you become better as a writer is by writing well as often as possible.
And the one thing that I will tell people is every single person that's reading your book knows more about something than you do in some way.
Yeah.
Because we all have our areas of expertises. So research is so important. You don't want to skip on a detail. Like one of the dumb things, which I didn't know about when I was, years ago, was like weapon stuff and guns. And I was like, oh, he clicked the safety. Well, lo and behold, I didn't know a Glock didn't have a physical safety.
Yeah.
It's a 2-stage trigger with a drop safety. They don't have thumb safeties like I thought all guns did. I didn't know that. And there's like little things like that where, whether it's a culture you're writing about or a artifact you're writing about, or in this case, a gun or weapons or something that you're writing about. That's why I know a lot of writers, they go really vague when it comes to certain topics just because of depth of knowledge, which I understand. But that is one thing I can tell you, do not skimp when it comes to research. And it's very, very, very important. And the reader will thank you, or they'll call you out, one or the other. But and thank you, Rich, very much. Love the organization and professionalism from our intrepid host. So intrepid implying means that I travel, and that's it's not the case. I'm not a traveler, but
I'm intrepid.
You're intrepid. You have traveled
and venerable.
And venerable, yeah. Yes. Have you watched The Last of Us? Meaning,
I have not watched it. I'm going to wait.
Love the games.
I didn't know it was games either for a while. I've caught up, but I'm
waiting. Would you
waiting.
know that it's the same production company as Uncharted?
Is it? That would
it's
be
Naughty Dog, which is also Ratchet and Clank, is also Crash Bandicoot. Remember from years ago. But
Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot.
Heard of that? Yeah.
Yeah. No. Anyways, it's a.
I'm letting the I'm going to let the series buffer for a while. I usually wait until like the third season to start watching popular series.
Are you at least caught up with The Mandalorian?
Yes.
Yeah,
I am caught up. Yeah.
That's one that I will go out of my way to stay up with. That was.
But I do let a series buffer for at least one series or one season, because I don't like. I grew up with it, and I never liked the episodic, one episode a week thing.
Sure.
Did
you ever get into Wednesday? Did you watch Wednesday?
Yet. No.
That was surprisingly really good.
I've heard good things.
I had my doubts. I really did, because I'm so attached to the original 91 Addams Family and Addams Family Values. Like
I grew up with the black and white.
I know.
Yeah. So I've never been a fan of Addams,
which was actually a very pink set. If you haven't seen the actual set,
I'm sure
the set for Addams Family, the black and white TV show, was actually all pink, and it was because of the way it worked on camera, being black and white, because of the tone. It needed to be. The pink is what works. It was like pink and purple and red. It was very, very like flamboyant and very like Valentine's Day. Very, very odd. But and Rich is kind of right with this. Yeah, the Arkham game series, best depiction of Batman.
Yeah, I've watched that.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy, rest in peace.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy. So, all right. This is I was gonna say we'll wrap this up, but they keep coming in. James, you gotta understand I had Prime, but the shipping and blah blah blah, I gotta get rid of it, and it wasn't economically to me. So I quit it, and the orders come faster, I guess, when we back. Okay, so
I mean, I get most stuff. Some stuff I get same day.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I get it within 3 days. But
yeah.
almost
Some of the
everything
stuff I get the
comes
day I
next day.
order it, and it's really weird.
I ordered a cell phone mount to go on my motorcycle, and it came an hour later. So just
Yeah.
I think it kind of depends on what you're ordering, but yeah.
Yeah. Allison, I'm a reader, not a writer, and I can't even imagine how you can write 70,000 words. On how on earth do you start to contemplate writing so many words? Try 130,000.
Listen,
it's rough.
I'm stealing this analogy, but it's apropos. But if you want to drive from New York to California at night, you only see as far ahead as your headlights will show you, but that's as far as you need to see to keep moving. You just keep moving one mile after another. So that's what it is. And I think the thing that intimidates people about writing a 70,000 word book or an 80,000 word book is you have this notion, whether you realize it or not, that you have to do all that at one time, and you don't. You're only doing, if you can only do 100 words a day or 500 or 1,000, that's what you do. And then you just come back to it the next day and the next day and the next day. And then before you know it, if you're writing 1,000 words a day, 70 days later, you have a book. So you have that 70,000 word book. And yeah, you're going to have to edit, and there's more to it than that, but that's really all it is. I mean, if you're going to chip your way through a mountain, you can do it one chunk of stone at a time.
Yeah, no, 100% correct. It's and that kind of goes to the style of outlining that a lot of us do, where it's you just kind of outline a few chapters ahead. You outline a far enough to see the next step, but it's enough to keep you going. It's kind of the same idea. And then this is a longer one from John, but he's talking about the research with sci-fi. I think the research has consumed me almost as much as the world building, from human evolution to the evolution of modern society in an alternate history setting. Oh boy. I think my problem is that I enjoy the aspect as much as the writing. Anyway, thank you for this opportunity to watch. I hope to see more lives, Facebook lives he's talking about. But yeah.
John, it sounds like you should write a series.
Yeah. It's kind of like me with the historical research. It's the same with you with historical research. Is you're like, wow, this is fascinating. This is amazing. Oh crap, I'm writing a book. I got to get back to it.
It doesn't stop. Yeah. I've done so much research. Particularly, I have a particular fascination with Celtic mythology and history, and so I've written at least 4 books that utilize that information, and I keep adding to it because it's fascinating, and there's always something new to learn. So the trick is, write that first book, and continue researching, and write the next book. You don't ever have to stop. You can just keep adding to it.
Allison, this is a very unnecessary comment. Also, I do feel guilty about reading a book that takes so much time to write, and I finish it within a couple of hours.
Don't. Chances are I wrote it in a couple of hours. So yeah, don't feel bad. Well, should we tell them about the 60,000 words in one day? Maybe we should.
Quickly, you can go over it real quick.
No, that's the whole story. There is a book, my book Evergreen. I wrote
Evergreen. Yes.
60,000 words I wrote in one day while I was in Manhattan on a snowy, rainy, slushy day.
In the bar of a hotel.
In the bar of a hotel. And my in-laws were all out doing their thing for the day. I had a full day to myself, so I wrote a novel. And I'll never do it again. But oddly, when people read that particular book, that seems to be the one that I get the most positive comments on. So
Yeah,
there you go.
That's ridiculous. And that was all from your 30. What was the book premise that popped from? That it started from, I should say. Writing 30
Well,
books or writing a book in 30 days.
yes, I started.
Yeah.
It started with me wanting to write a book in 30 days, and then it was 15, and then it was a
Yeah.
week, and then it's
And
like,
then
well, could I
you
do
and
it in a
Nick were going
day?
back and forth trying to, one up
Well,
each other more or less.
Nick now he's now done an 80,000 word book in one day. He did it through dictation. I'm not going to say that's
Yeah.
cheating or anything. I mean, I think that's perfectly valid as a writing tool. But
Cheater.
he outlined though, and he wrote
Yeah.
and he did a book. So it's perfectly acceptable.
All the prep work he did for it probably was enough work that
yeah,
it made up for any.
I still count that as a remarkable achievement. On
It
Nick's
absolutely
part.
is. Yeah, absolutely is. Yeah, I did his more or less his masterclass, his webinar on dictation and stuff, and I was super impressed with the just the information overload that he gave me, and I was like, wow, this is like, I would love to be able to do this, and I just
I can't
imagine.
I can't dictate. Yeah.
Well, it's getting started. It's because it completely destroys everything we currently do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's starting over, and it's like, man, I just James is calling in tonight. Thank you. Thanks for the live. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. I do need
James,
to get out of here as well.
Here.
Kevin and Matt, thanks for your time tonight. It was entertaining. Andrew popped in. So Andrew Clausen, amazing author in his own right. Congrats on Jack 5, Matt. Thank you very much, Andrew. I really do appreciate that. Check out his series. He's a great author, does really great work. So and check out Andrew's stuff. Yes. Allison, sorry to keep asking questions.
That's okay, Allison. That's fine.
It's semi early where Kevin is.
I'm half in the bag, man.
He's half. He hasn't even been drinking.
You think this is coffee? This isn't coffee.
I'm just kidding. Say,
I forgot to bring booze over. Normally, I have like a bottle of something sitting here so that I can,
Although mine destroyed me because I had to go to the bathroom, but
I do have to urinate. I won't lie.
Right. The Celts were from Hallstatt in Austria. Look that one up.
See, that's good information there, Ray.
Yeah, because the Celts, you think Celtic, you're thinking more Great Britain area. So there you go. But one more, and then we will get out of here, guys. We are at the 2-hour mark. Thank you so much for staying with us, for listening to us, for watching us on Facebook Live. I really do appreciate this. John Dolan, it is going to be it's going to be a series. I already have several vignettes drafted. We'll see where this project ends up.
I think you're going to have a fantastic one, John.
Yeah.
Good luck. And
what I can tell you is series can sometimes be birthed accidentally out of a standalone novel. So don't be afraid to write that one book that then inspires you to continue it and write a series. So it doesn't have to start as a series to become a series.
And if those vignettes can kind of stand on their own, you might test the waters by putting them out there. There are several services that you can actually serialize stories.
Yeah.
Kindle Vella.
Yeah.
Is it Vella? That's one of them. Yeah. So the Wattpad is one, but I think I'd rather go with one where you can monetize. But if you want to test the waters and see if you've got an audience, you could always go that route.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on once more. We seem to have talked to each other quite a bit over the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
So no, I really do appreciate it. This was fun. Real Life Fiction Live will be back shortly, actually, in the next, I'd say about maybe 3 weeks. I'm going to try to do these every 3 or 4 weeks if I can, get a different writer on, get a different just book industry person on. I have another author already lined up, ready to rock. I just have to actually schedule a date with him, but that is my fault, not his. And thank you so much, Kevin, once more. Thank you for hanging out, and we will see everyone later. Kevin, real quick, for those of you, for those watching and those listening that are interested in your stuff, besides Amazon, where can they reach you? Where can they kind of just...
You need to go look up my website, kevintumlinson.com, and that's where pretty much everything is. I haven't yet put a link to this one, but I am co-hosting the Writers Inc. podcast with JD Barker and some others. So check that out. That's a fun one.
Awesome. And I'm sure the Google machine could probably just figure it all out, just to kind of... Kevin Tumlinson
WritersInc.com,
Writers
I think
Inc.
is the...
Yeah.
INK.
Best way. I'm unlike Kevin, I'm all over social media, specifically Facebook, mostly just because of family and friends and stuff, but I'm always around.
I am on Twitter.
Yeah, he's on Twitter. Right? Yeah. I'm on Instagram as well. I'm kind of all over the place, but mattjamesauthor.com if you want just kind of a more condensed version of everything going on when it comes to books and podcasts and publishing and all that stuff. But I always want to throw that out there. Nick Thacker and I have a Conundrum Publishing going on right now. We are signing some independent authors, and really, and some quite large authors actually, as we will reveal as the months go by. But if anybody's out there that is a small author or just an author in general that just has not a lot of experience with publishing or marketing, you're more than welcome to give us a message, give us an email, and see if we can maybe help you out with a little publishing on the side. So you never know. But regardless, thank you so much for hanging out with everybody. I really do appreciate it. I love doing these. Kevin loves doing these, but he's a sport. I really do appreciate Kevin a lot. He's a great guy, and I love the fact that he says yes more than he ever says no. So thank you so much, my friend.
It's a sickness, really.
It really is a sickness. It really is. It's almost an addiction, actually. So he says he doesn't like social media stuff, but he's kind of on it a lot. So mostly because of me, I guess. But but between the podcast and stuff, you can hear Kevin's voice all over the place. So KevinTumlinson.com, MattJamesAuthor.com, Real Life Fiction on YouTube, on podcast forum, anything you need will be there. But thank you so much, guys. And we will see you next time.